Cape Buffalo. It's a very confusing measurement. The new Roland Ward measurement, everybody doesn't understand. The Safari Club International measurement is often interpreted incorrectly. Today we'll be measuring these two, and we'll see what is the correct measurement for Cape Buffalo, for Safari Club International, and Rowland Ward. I'm David Sutherland. Let's start off with Safari Club International. The measurement is sometimes misinterpreted or interpreted incorrectly because there are specific points which have got to be determined before we can actually start to measure. Let's do the longer measurement first, and that is we've got to determine 6 points and then join those 6 points to each other. So the first is the tip of the horn. We've got to determine that. We can mark the lowest point of the curl at the bottom where it touches the table, and then we can take a straight edge. We bring the straight edge up towards the front of the boss, and where the straight edge makes contact with the boss left and the right boss, we can make a mark there. And then we go to the lowest point of the right hand curl again, mark it there, and the horn tip of the right hand horn. Now we have 6 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We now got to join these 6 points together using a tight tape staying against the horn. So we'll start over here and we'll take it on the outside of the curl down to the lowest point where the lower part of the curl is touching the table, up against the horn without going into the air to our left boss, the front mark we made over there. Tight tape over to the right hand side of the boss, and then against the horn, gradually down to the lowest point of the right horn where we made our mark, and then on the outside curl of the right horn to that tip. One long measurement, and we write that measurement down. Now we've got to measure the bosses. So what you've got to do is you've got to firstly determine the axis of each boss. The easiest way to do that is take a caliper, take it the width of the boss over there, and then maybe it is 12 inches on the caliper. 6 inches we make a mark, so we have the middle point of the boss. The lower curl of the horn at the bottom, we can check that. Take a caliper, that may be 4 inches. 2 inches, we make a point there. So now we will join these 2 points, the middle point of the horn, and we have the axis of the horn, always lying slightly backward on Cape Buffalo because the horns tend to lie backward. Then we take the right-hand horn, we do the same, the middle point of the horn, the middle point, and we can draw a line with chalk and determine the axis of the right horn. Now we have to draw or measure the bosses 90 degrees to the axis of these horns. So we start in the front of the horn, we start at the base where the horn touches the skull, and we come around to the back. The measurement will always go slightly inward to maintain our 90-degree angle with the axis. If we have to look at it like this, what we've done is we've determined the middle point of the horn, which is over there, the middle over there, and we have the axis of the horn, that middle point, the axis is backwards. We can see it makes a shallow V, and now we have to measure 90 degrees to that axis. We have to measure the widest point of the boss, starting at the point where the horn touches the skull, around a profile around to where the horn touches the skull. You can measure it as many times as you like, find the widest point there, and then again 90 degrees to the axis. We measure the width of the right boss, and then we take our 6 points which we've added together, our 6-point measurement which we've added together, and then the width of both bosses, 90 degrees to the axis, and we total those 3 measurements for the total score on Safari Club International. Just by way of illustration, from the front of the buffalo, we'll be taking it from the tip of the horn, the lowest point, our straight edge. We'll make 2 marks on the front of the boss, the lowest point of the curl, and the tip of the horn. Those are the 6 points we will be joining. We'll go along the outside of the curl to the lowest point, gradually up to the top, tight tape over, gradually down to the lowest point on the outside of the curl to the tip. That is our 6 points. We add it to our width of the boss taken at 90 degrees to the axis, and we have our Safari Club International measurement. Let's get to the Roland Ward measurement for the Cape Buffalo. This one is often most confusing because the Roland Ward measurement changed. The outside spread of the horn, which the minimum requirement was 42 inches, was used for a long time. The problem with that was that you had young, immature buffalo, 5-6-year-old buffalo with soft bosses, with huge spreads being hunted and entered into the book. And these young buffalo had soft bosses, or in some cases, no boss at all yet. So Roland Ward decided to include the measurement of the boss. So the new measurement is 64 inches, whereas the old one was 42. So if you have 64, you have 22 inches. So you have two 11-inch bosses. At your 42 spread, you'll have a 64-inch buffalo for Rowland Ward, and then that would qualify for the new measurement, in terms of the new measurement. The width of the spread is still the same. You take a square on the outside of the curl, put your square over there, and you make a little mark on the table or wherever you're measuring. Make a little mark over there on the outside of the curl on the left horn, at its widest point, a little mark over there, and then you remove the skull and you measure the straight line distance between those 2 points to the nearest 1/8 of an inch for buffalo. The width of the boss is now included, but it is not measured the same as Safari Club International. The width of the boss are two parallel measurements. So you take the center line of the skull, and the two boss measurements must be done parallel to the center line of the skull. So the two measurements are going to be parallel to each other also. So you start with the skull meets the horn, and you measure a parallel measurement with the center line of the skull around to the back where the boss meets the skull. The two eye sockets are regarded as the outer limit for measuring the width of the boss. So from the eye sockets inwards, we measure from the skull around to the skull, and you measure it as many places as you like, staying within the eye sockets, two parallel measurements for the width. You take that width of the skull and you take that width of the skull, and you add that to your outside spread for your total measurement for Roland Ward. Just by way of illustration over here, so Safari Club International was done 90 degrees to the axis. The Roland Ward measurement would look like that, and that measurement and the center line of the skull would be two parallel measurements. Instead of going off the parallel line to be 90 degrees to the axis. So that is the new measurement on Cape Buffalo for Roland Ward. Please remember to like and to subscribe to this video channel, and share this video amongst your friends to get the latest hunting related content.